what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be bookish content. For today's video, we're going to go over all the books I read in the month of August. I only have 7 books to talk about, most of which are manga, so let's just jump right into it. So the first book I'm going to talk about for the month of August is a manga volume, and that is Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 18 by Jige Akutami. So if you've been on this channel for a while, you know I've been slowly making my way through the series, slowly because it's not one of my favorites. I've read better manga before. At this point, I'm just finishing it because I feel obligated to, and I'm a very nosy person. But what is the story about? So Jujutsu Kaisen takes place in a universe where cursed spirits exist, and those in the Jujutsu world have their own sort of cursed energy, and they use said cursed energy to fight off these spirits. So about volume 18 specifically, I don't have a lot to say about it. I can't really give specific for volumes anymore. One, because I'm much deeper in the series now. The last volume I read was 23, so each volume's kind of like, the plot of each volume is wishy-washy in my head. It's all mushing together. But also I'm just so deep in the story, I can't give you a synopsis anyway without spoilers. So I will say for volume 18 specifically, we do meet a new character and therefore start a new arc. The things I like about this is the usual, like the art, the fighting scenes look cool. However, I am starting to lose interest in these characters, which is not a good sign. You want me to care about your characters, especially the main one. And I am rapidly losing interest, but I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars anyway. Next, we have come to an end of an era. Again, if you've been here for a while, you know I've been making my way through the Princess Diary books. I have read the last one, which is the Quarantine Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. Princess Mia Thermopolis is now the Princess of Genovia. She is an adult. She's married to Michael. They have twin kids. And while she's ruling Genovia, COVID-19 hits and she puts Genovia on a lockdown. This is definitely, what can I say about it? It's definitely not one of my favorites of the series. This one felt very middle of the road. Like, it was just, okay, a book that I happened to read. I will say it did have its typical shenanigans that I liked from the other books. So there were a few times in this book where I was kind of laughing out loud. I did find Michael and Lily to be bearable in this. Michael, he had like a phase. My thing with Michael is kind of complicated because I think in the beginning of the series I liked him. Somewhere in the middle he lost me, but then he quickly gained my trust again. So my trajectory with him was that, like, it was all over the place. His sister Lily, who's Mia's best friend, I never liked, and I went from just disliking her but tolerating her to just not, I couldn't stand her at one point. I still feel a ways about Mia being her friend again, but in this book I guess I shouldn't talk about it anyway because it's like those things never happen now that they're adults. And it's not like Lily had a lot of page time. This book hit a little too close to home because just COVID-19 is still in the very like recent past. It's not at all distant. You know, 2020 was 5 years ago. So there were things happening in this book that happened in real life that really pissed me off, like people not listening to the science. They were saying, I can't believe this pandemic's going on forever, and it's like, well, it's going on forever because you're not doing your part. Stuff like that. Things that were happening in real life were happening in this book, so they were pissing me off, which is kind of the point. But part of me thinks maybe it was a little too soon to read this, because the memories are still fresh. I do think Mia is arguably the smartest character in this book just because throughout the main series, she always had a love for science and the environment, and it really came into play here. I will say though, when it came to the family's personal issues and why lockdown was really hard for them, why it was hard for Mia, there were a lot of times where I felt too poor to relate. Some of them was humorous and was supposed to kind of like make you feel a ways. For example, her grandmother, she would always complain about being locked up in her castle. And it's like, okay, well, when COVID hit in real life, I was locked up in my little shoebox in Chicago, you know, my working class family. Our house was small. Like, your room is still, your bedroom alone is bigger than my whole house, and you're complaining. And like stuff like that was supposed to be humorous given Grandma's depiction in these books, but then just Mia had little moments too where I was like, okay, I don't care. I don't feel sorry for you. You know what I'm saying? I will say too, this book definitely feels more so like a companion novel rather than a continuation, and I feel like it just could have been a lot shorter. I listened to this on audiobook and I forgot how long the audiobook was, but I remember feeling it was never going to end. So maybe this book could be like half as long as it actually is, especially because it gives that companion novel feeling. So overall, I did give this 3.5 out of 5 stars, and it is hard, as much as I didn't feel like I was given a proper conclusion to the Princess Diaries story. The proper conclusion is definitely book 10. I don't think books 11 and 12 were ever intended, especially 12, given what it's about. So despite not getting that proper conclusion, so to speak, it is kind of crazy to me. I finally reached an end of an era, and I'm not gonna be picking up a new book next month. So next we have Jujutsu Kaisen volume 19, and I have to be honest, this is when, like my previous complaints for volume 18, this is when they started to really hit. I was truly losing interest in the characters in this volume. I wasn't caring about what was happening, and it was this volume that kind of cemented what I feel like is wrong with Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole. It's all fights and no character depth. Like, there's nothing happening between these fights that makes me care about these characters. It's fight after fight. The plot is moving way too fast, and characters are introduced just to be killed off right away, and nothing's happening to our main characters that makes me feel a certain way about them and how they feel about their surroundings and what's happening to them. Like, I feel like I'm not given enough time to care. So I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. But then I read Jujutsu Kaisen volume 20, and I do have the same grievances towards this volume as I do 18 and 19. But I will say what makes the story is liking the characters. This volume specifically is very Yuta focused. He happens to be one of the characters I like better. One of my main things with Jujutsu Kaisen is like I don't love any of the characters. There are just characters that I happen to like more than others. Jito, Mahito, Choso, and Yuta. These, if I had to give you a top 5, these would at least be the 4. I don't think I have a 5th. But I like these characters the best. This is very Yuta focused, so I did find it more entertaining. And the art is better too, so I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is because I made a deal with my friend Olivia Savannah over at Olivia's Catastrophe. Our deal was that if she watches Attack on Titan Season 2, I will read this book. I will read the entire series. That series is the Green Creek series by TJ Klune, book 1 being Wolfsong. So this book is about a boy named Ox. He meets the new family in town, and he discovers that they are a pack of sorts. And this was actually a surprising read for me. So going into it, I didn't think I was going to love it. I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be a 5 out of 5 star read, just because from the description, it's not something that I typically read. It could be a little romance focused, I shouldn't say romance focused, but it does have more romance than I tend to read. But I did end up rating this book fairly high because I actually was pretty engrossed in it throughout the whole thing. I listened to the audiobook at work, so I was having audible reactions. I know one of them was in front of one of my co-workers that I work with, and she gave me the weirdest look and like, okay, well now I can never show my face to her again. And I constantly wanted to know more and see what was happening. So surprisingly, this was a pretty great book. There was something very cozy and heartwarming about this, even near that one part of the book where it's just a lot of depression happening, but I still felt like these characters were giving me a big warm hug. I actually wish I waited until the fall autumn season to read this, because that's the type of vibes I got. This is definitely a book where I envision myself like in front of a fire in my robe with a hot drink, and this book is on my lap and I'm just reading it for hours on end, and the fire and the natural lighting outside is the only light I have. The biggest draw to this book is the found family. In the very first chapter, Ox's dad leaves the family, and it is a motif throughout the book. It does get mentioned constantly, one of the lines his dad says to him, but I really do like that Ox was able to find love elsewhere. The Bennetts gladly accepted him, no problem, and like that was to be expected given the plot of this book, but it wasn't just the Bennetts. I was expecting the characters around him to act differently, just because if it was another book, it is how they would act, but everyone acted surprisingly well. For example, his co-workers. I was expecting them to be douchebags because I feel like these type of guys typically are in other stories. Not much in real life, which is kind of so interesting to me that they have this depiction in fiction. But I guess TJ Klune realized the same thing I did. These guys ended up being extremely welcoming to Ox. They welcomed him like a little brother. So I do really like TJ Klune's depiction because it does feel more so like real life than what I see in movies and TV shows and other books. There's also a girl named Jessie. She dated Ox for a while, and I was expecting this to have like a typical boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend fallout. We'll never hear from her again. She was just a catalyst, just a plot point. But she does come back in a positive light, which I was surprised by, but I really do like the friendship they had post-relationship. Ox thought of all these people as family in some way, and his descriptions just made me feel like his family was giving me a warm hug as well. And I do want to talk about the technique of this book, like the actual writing. So many lines in the narration and even the dialogue are lines that I wish I wrote. I love TJ Klune's figurative language and the type of metaphors he made, the similes, the comparisons I would not have thought to make up myself, and how they were weaved into the story. And it made for a very emotional story. Those first 2 chapters had me in tears, and this book does span years, so we do get to see the highs and lows of life. Like, their lives aren't always perfect. The plot does one of these things because there's so many emotions, because that's just how real life works. And there's beautiful imagery on top of that, which made what I was reading feel so real. However, I do have 2 gripes. One is like a personal nitpick that nobody else cares about, and like, I don't want to blame TJ Klune for this because, spoiler alert, it is a werewolf story. And like, this thing is so common in wolf stories. But my personal gripe with wolf stories is the whole like alpha beta thing. And TJ Klune really leans into it in this story, because you got the alpha, who's the head of the family, everyone else is a beta, and like the wild humans / wolves, those are the omegas. The reason it's a pet peeve of mine is because I went to school for zoology, so I have a general idea of how animal behavior works. And I just want to say that alpha research study about wolves was proven to be bullshit. Wolves in real life don't have this family dynamic, so it fucking kills me. But like on a humorous level, you know what I mean? Like, it's a nitpick that's not the end all be all. I'm not going to give a book 1 out of 5 stars because of it. But because of that, I do have to admit some of the descriptions towards being an alpha or a beta and how they react to each other in this book, I kind of glossed over them. I stopped listening to the audiobook. My attention waned because, like, it's bullshit. I'm sorry, it's bullshit, and I can't help with thinking it like that. And then an actual gripe I do have, and it's the reason I didn't give this book 5 out of 5 stars, is that despite the poetic language, this book could be pretty long-winded. There are times where Klune does constantly repeat himself 1 too many times. I understand things being a motif, but like, you can mention this thing maybe 3 less times than you did. There were several times in this book where like I knew what was coming, but the way he described it didn't. Are you okay? Okay. But the way said event was described, like, I didn't feel any tension. If anything, I was just annoyed and like telling myself or thinking to myself, Klune, you need to get to the point. So I believe this book is like over 500 pages. The audiobook is pretty long. This book could definitely be shaved by like a good 20% of it, I want to say. But other than that, I do think this was a beautiful book with a beautiful lesson. You can't pick who you're biologically related to, but you can pick your own family. Sometimes blood is not thicker than water. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. And for the last book I completed in August, that is Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 21. So fights are cool and all, cool art, but I did not care about anyone that was focused in this volume. I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. The last book I want to talk about, but I did not complete in August, I don't have the dust jacket on, but it's Don Quixote by, who is the author? Oh my god. Let me try that again. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. This is about a dude who wants to become a knight, and he is going on adventures and making a fool of himself. This is supposed to be my big book of the year because every year I try to read a big book. This copy specifically is over 940 pages. I was having a lot of fun within the first 50. I thought it was hilarious. But right now it is putting me to sleep because it can be very repetitive. I am on page 334 and I'm going to be on that for a while because I am putting this on hold for the spooky season so I can read other books throughout September and October. But that's it. That's the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you liked this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And without further ado, I'm going to peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao, tutti.